Welcome to Who Knew. We are fans of the current series of Doctor Who, and here we discuss our likes, dislikes, and insights into the modern regeneration of the show. Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher, or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/WhoKnewPodcast. All our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com. You can leave comments there, or email us at whoknewpodcast@gmail.com. We also have an Instagram and Twitter account. Tweet at us at whoknewpodcast, and find us on Facebook. Today's episode is episode 6 of season 8, The Caretaker. The Doctor stalks Clara at work by taking the position of a caretaker. This episode is written by Gareth Roberts and Stephen Moffat. It is directed by Paul Murphy. It originally aired on the 27th of September 2014 and was watched by 4.89 million viewers. Hi, this is Eugene. Let's introduce ourselves.
Hello, this is Auburn.
Hey, this is Josh.
Hi, everyone. This is Frank.
Hey, y'all. This is Kelsey.
Hi, this is Brian.
Clara is determined to balance her time travel life with her normal life. But one day, the Doctor tells her that he is going deep undercover and won't be taking her along. The next day, at Coal Hill School, she is introduced to the new temporary caretaker, the Doctor.
Because that had a lot going on in it.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
And I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought it was a fun way to open it, of her balancing and trying to get everything, and some really funny bits about her being on a sunbed because she's, got a
You're browner than normal.
Browner than normal.
I love the big showers because when the cab's pulling away, it's actually raining outside.
Yeah.
So.
I like it's got one of my favorite things about the show is when they allude to other adventures, like they in between the scenes, in between the cracks or the seams, you feel there's a wider world. And I got a kick out of when he said, we won't starve, the sand piranhas will get us. And the name Sand Piranhas is such a lame name. Like in the past it was like Bib Fortuna, Salacious Crumb, or all these elaborate names. Just Sand Piranhas. It's what they are.
And then he needs those cutters in her jacket.
Oh, right.
She's like, in her other jacket, you have 2 jackets?
One of them faulty? What's wrong? It's good banter. It's a lot of fun. It seemed like this is going to be a very fun episode in that the way it was set up.
Yeah, I do agree. I like this montage, and I wish that this had come earlier in the season because it really sets the tone for their relationship that I was kind of not 100% on yet.
For Clara and Danny?
No, Clara. Well, the triangle, the Clara, Danny, Doctor triangle. Like, if this was before Time Heist, I think I would have liked the ending scene of Time Heist better.
Oh, I think the ending scene of Time Heist is what sets up this. Like, the Doctor is, trying to almost woo Clara from her real life boyfriend.
Yes, I see what you're saying, but I'm trying to think if I reordered things. You know what? I'll save it because then this leads into the later scene. Because I don't want to jump ahead too far.
I will say that this is where I started to like Danny. Not so much in this rewatch, but like originally. Like I like how he's starting to become suspicious of her behavior. He's not just like this googly-eyed, smiley guy. He's becoming more of like a real person with adding tension to the story.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Doctor needs to get off his back. It's really annoying. Did like that one point where she notices immediately, it's like, why are you being nice? And I love his response, because it works on you.
Well, and especially because every other time we see them first get together, the comment from the Doctor is something about like how she looks unkempt or
did you have a wash? Did you have a wash today?
Yeah. And I think at this point, the two actors, they have established a new rapport with each other that is different from the 11th Doctor. Like, this is a new relationship, even though they have that history. They have a different kind of banter, a different kind of energy together, and it doesn't feel new anymore. It feels like they've been gallivanting around the universe together, and they have their Abbott and Costello-ness.
Yeah.
One thing that I thought of at the beginning and how this progresses for this episode is what Eugene said about showing, don't tell. Here they're telling us that Danny and Clara have had this relationship on a lot of dates. They've been going out for a long time. But it doesn't quite come across in the rest of the rest of the episode at how close they are. It's like it's only told to me that they're close from Danny's point of view. It's like, we're up to this point. And I didn't get that. This, I thought, it's a great opening for a comedy. It's a great opening for a fun, silly episode. But the episode gets serious halfway through and continues serious, that it just doesn't flow right for me. It's not balanced right.
There's a point of dialogue in later, which is not gonna, I'm gonna say it because it's not gonna ruin too much. But as the teachers, they have parent-teacher conferences with the students, parents, of course. One of the parents says, last year you said that so-and-so. So that says they've been dating for a year since we last saw them. But I agree with you. They're telling us, they're not showing us.
And it wasn't sinking in. Like, I didn't realize that until Frank told me about the year thing. It's like, oh, okay. I wish they could have pounded that home a little earlier.
Yeah, they really, I don't know what they made me do a text on screen or the montage, like 1 year later, we're
no,
still
I just think if what they did at the beginning had particular dates that we would recognize.
Yeah.
Oh, they've been dating a year. I didn't realize it's been that long, because I missed that too. Like,
yeah,
I as an audience member, I have no idea how long they've been together.
Because the montage is establishing Clara's struggle with balancing her adventures with the doctor, but you do see dates and outings with Danny. They could have ramped those up instead of just for that comic effect of, you're different from when I last saw you. It should have been more of like maybe a progression of time. I don't know what they could have done, like different hairstyles or something.
But maybe if they did an actual calendar, date with Danny or whatever, or meet him at this, and show different months through it.
Or even, like, I feel like the date montage, we've seen that. We've seen them go out on dates before. And I feel like when you've been dating for a year, your dates are not always out. You're hanging, like we see them later in the episode, where they're just hanging out on the couch together.
Well, even talking about Clara's apartment, I don't know if we have the geography of that apartment as well as we did with, say,
Amy and Rory.
Well, I was going to say Rose and Jackie's apartment. Like, we knew where that wall was, or that cutout in the wall that separated the kitchen from like the living room. Where with Clara's apartment, I've seen the TARDIS in her bedroom. I don't know what her living room looks like.
Yeah.
The doctor shows up and was revealed what he's going undercover as and where he's going undercover at the school. And he introduces himself to the staff and faculty by saying, "My name's John Smith, but they call me the doctor." That really made me laugh because of the ridiculousness of it.
To me, what sells it is that wink. He's like, are you really winking at Clara right now?
in an obvious way in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Right, that Danny picked up on. Like, did he wink at you?
No, it was general. It was like a general winking. So
I really enjoyed the doctor in this episode, and and all his moods and stuff like that. I feel like Capaldi's really gelling as this doctor now, and I had a ball watching him.
Yeah, it was a different change, so I enjoyed it.
He's just too harsh on Danny. It's like, now, watching it now several times, Capaldi is so good at this. He's so good at this dialogue and whipping between emotions and punchlines and things like that. Stop being such a dick to Danny. It's just, really bugs me. I would like it so much more if they just like eased up on that a little bit, or he learns his lesson, which he doesn't.
I think not to jump ahead, but it's really because he's angry at himself, right? For being a soldier in the past and all that. But they really needed to spell it out at the end.
Yeah.
That he learned.
Yeah, because he's just like really harsh.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's like, just stop it.
Is it any more harsh than calling someone Mickey the Idiot?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was going to bring that up, where we've seen where the doctor doesn't like a companion's boyfriend or significant other, but with the 9th Doctor, there was a different tone to it. Where with the 12th Doctor, I agree with Brian, it's a little too much, because we'll get there when he's officially like doing caretaker-y things. But I'll bring it up then.
I got a big kick out of him relishing in that thinking she's dating someone who looks like him as the 11th Doctor.
Adrian.
Yes.
Clara is concerned that the school, and more importantly, the students, will be safe while the doctor is around. He assures her they will be, if she stays out of his way. Deep cover, you know. The doctor putters around the school and decides to harass Danny until Clara intervenes and sends Danny away. The doctor starts to secretly place time mines around the campus to capture a deadly killing machine called a Skovox Blitzer. He plans to lure it to the school and use the time mines to send it far away into the future. Clara is worried about the danger to the school and wants to help him, but he refuses and sends her away for her date with Danny. But soon after, she breaks off her date so she can return to the doctor. So yeah, this is the part where the doctor is tinkering with that electrical box, and then Danny and, is it Adrian? No, it's somebody else.
Adrian.
It is Adrian? Okay.
It's Adrian. Yep.
Adrian are there, and the doctor keeps saying to Danny, go teach PE. And he's like, no, I'm the maths teacher. There's a certain quality to that is aloof, and it makes the doctor sort of stupid because he's not doing it to make fun of Danny, because he keeps making the same mistake. Because when the ninth doctor does it to Mickey and calls him Ricky, I see that as like, I'm going to annoy you.
Yeah.
And then when he calls him Mickey the idiot, it's more of that, where this one is just like, he's telling you he's not he's not the PE teacher.
Well, I think the implication is that Danny's supposed to be obviously some sort of soldier, athletic. He's big, he's tall, he's handsome, he looks like a soldier, maybe in the British Army. But so I think he, like, for him to say you must be a gym teacher. Well, you're an athlete. You can't be a math. No maths teacher looks like you. A maths teacher looks like me or Adrian.
I think it's more directly, a math teachers would not be a soldier.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. I'm supporting what you're saying, Eugene.
Yeah. And I'm saying I like what you said. I wish that had been delivered that way, because then I don't know, it would have been better for me.
I need
the whole thing toned. Yeah, he needs to tone it all down.
The filmmakers or the writer, I think it was in their minds, it was obvious because it's there, and we just don't see Danny that way. Whereas for whatever reason they did.
Yeah.
Like if he was a big guy, we'd get the joke, as opposed to it just being like, I'm being rude to you.
But
right.
The doctor doesn't say that. He says,
no, he doesn't.
You're a soldier. You can't do math. You're stupid. You have to do PE because you're physical. You're a soldier.
But he didn't. Did he know he was? He didn't know he was a soldier at first, did he?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. Through the conversation with Adrian.
When they're talking about the electric box, Danny says he used to help the old janitor, and Adrian says, "Oh yeah, Danny here is a soldier. He was even an Afghan." Like, so right. That's what starts the soldier combo.
It's there. It's just not very strong.
Right, and to me, like Danny Pink isn't anybody to the doctor at this point. Like, the doctor doesn't know who Danny Pink is. And so really it's just the doctor's, it's like if Danny Pink had said, I work for UNIT, and the doctor's like, ugh, I hate people who work for UNIT. It's more of like that. It's the doctor's own bias against human military. Yeah. And that's why he's treating Danny the way he is, by saying, well, you can't be a math teacher because you're a soldier. It doesn't really have anything to do with Danny, who Danny is, or who Danny might be to Clara. It's more of like the doctor's own bias against soldiers.
But we've seen him work with soldiers and not put them down.
Well, yeah. Well, but in the very beginning of the episode, in some of the gallivanting around, he stops running and flat out looks at her and says, I hate soldiers. Don't you hate soldiers?
Yeah.
And that's Moffat's agenda, which is odd, because as much as Moffat likes Doctor Who, here's a tidbit that I feel like he just glossed over. The Brigadier, Lethbridge Stewart, when he retired from UNIT, became a maths teacher with the 5th Doctor. And I'm like, why would the 12th Doctor not know that and treat a soldier that way?
I think a lot of it probably has to do with the fact of when this was written and when this was filmed.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
This is in the middle of Afghanistan, and the British public, I mean, everybody did, but the British public really had a visceral reaction to what was going on at that point. So I don't think soldiers were treated well. And so but to me, it's like, this is not a characteristic that I want of the Doctor.
Yes, I agree.
It's too much. It's like, it needs to be softened up a little bit, because he's Ricky the idiot, Mickey's response to that is like, oh, come on. What this Danny, I'm surprised Danny isn't punching him, because the doctor is so rude and so just awful with Danny.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the topical nature of this, I guess, theme that Moffat is kind of going with, because to me that then makes these episodes sort of less timeless, because they are addressing a specific thing in a certain time.
Mm-hmm.
Where to me I feel sad for the UK soldiers, because when that happened in Vietnam for us, we learned to not treat soldiers like that when they came back from the Middle Eastern wars.
It took a long time.
It did, but I just feel sad for them.
But I mean, Moffat even has the little kids making fun of him as a soldier.
Yeah.
What does squatty mean?
Yeah. Courtney says Ozzy loves the squatty.
Yeah, what is that?
I was like, what? And
So,
then it's written on the wall.
So Ozzy,
Squatty,
I was going to say Ozzy for Oswald, and then
Right.
Squatty, Frank.
is a low-ranking soldier in the armed forces, often seen drunk, hanging around parks on Fridays and Saturdays looking for young girls to mate with.
Mm.
I mean, just a low-level idea of what a soldier is, and it's just really derogatory. And I guess it's also different, the timing, and maybe it's not as strong in the British area than it is in ours. And it's just such a put down that's prevalent in this episode.
Mhm.
And that he doesn't even give an officer or any soldier any benefit of the doubt. He's been against them, yes, but then we also put that towards, because he had to do that and destroy, his race. But now he knows they're out there still somewhere. He knows he didn't destroy them because of what happened in the 50th and all that. So he should be different, but now he still just loathes this guy because he's a soldier. Doesn't give him any benefit of the doubt, doesn't just dislike him. He's just putting him down. No, I can't even fathom that you can have any kind of brain.
It does seem like at the first watch that it is because of jealousy, from the doctor over Clara and Danny's relationship. But then later in the episode, it plays at that the doctor doesn't know Danny, where, like Clara has said later, we have seen Danny's descendant with the doctor, and the doctor is not dumb, and is a time traveler and understands how that all works. And so, I think that's the problem, is that it tries to have it kind of a couple different ways without really committing to one way.
Yeah, I agree.
And he does start the whole soldier Danny thing.
Yeah.
When Danny Pink was a kid, when Rupert Pink was a kid, and they gave him the little soldier, which Orson had as part of his,
like memento.
Lineage, a family heirloom. So it was only 2 episodes for us that they saw him. And it's like, oh, don't even remember that. Don't even know who he is. It doesn't look anything like him. It's like, why are you making him seem so dumb? Usually they do that and it pays off, going, oh, this is what the doctor was thinking. This episode does not pay off. They try to at the end. And it's like, no, because if you actually thought that, why were you trying to set Clara up and thinking that the other guy's her boyfriend? That made no sense if you knew this ahead of time. Sorry.
Agreed. I definitely agree.
No, you're right.
Maybe I'm just too invested in this.
No,
I know I'm going to be a diehard at this point because this one really bugs me. It's like, I know I can't call myself a fan.
I'm glad you said what you said, Frank, because I had the same note, but you said it better. And for me, it feels like they could have explained it, like if the doctor, and this is just my explanation for it, like when he was John Smith in pre-World War I and he was training those future soldiers, he put on the chameleon circuit, so he became human. So they could have done something where, to go under deep cover, he puts on the chameleon circuit, and that's why he's an aloof human, and it would have justified all of that for me.
True, but I just think the deep cover was just a joke.
Yes, I agree.
Which I thought was funny at the time. Oh, he's doing a caretaker. Look how deep I am in this cover.
And he goes,
it doesn't match the tone of some of the other stuff to me. And that's what something's definitely missing.
Because that line when Clara comes back to the office, I guess, of the principal, where the caretaker was introduced, I wrote it down. He says, "So you recognize me?"
Right.
And he goes, "You're wearing a different coat. You saw straight through it."
And I did like the reference to River and him having a fight. So that was nice.
With otters.
Yeah.
Yes. I think it's kind of Moffat's MO, though, to sacrifice continuity for episodic story.
Yeah. Which is weird because he references things that are like deep cuts.
Yeah.
So it's odd that balance isn't quite there.
Yeah.
I do think this was probably one of the main, like not the main cause, but certainly added to like my eventual dropping watching the show live, because it didn't feel like the writers cared enough to connect the Doctor to the previous seasons I had watched.
Yeah.
And so yeah, kind of going off the rails with the character of the Doctor, which is, you know, what keeps us connected.
Mm-hmm.
Moffat didn't write this one, right?
He did with Gareth Roberts.
He must have lost track of it because he's usually really good in writing.
For me, I mean, it's the Doctor all the way through.
And like
it's God, it's like, you're not a character I want to watch. I mean, he's so rude. He's just so bad. And I was also saying to Frank, the British can write characters that are completely and utterly heartless and still laugh at them. Whereas I think Americans tend to need to see some sort of softness inside in order to get
like the
humor.
Office.
Like
the three different Office starts very different, and then they have to soften up Michael in America to make it work.
Yeah, it's like Michael, you just want to kind of like hug him and protect him from himself. Whereas Ricky Gervais, it's like, go away, you know?
David Brent.
Yeah, and so it's like they're trying to write the Doctor very harsh, and I just can't stand it.
Capaldi does it well, though.
Really well. I mean, super, super Emmy Award winning well. The way he can turn on a dime is amazing.
Delivery, everything is really good. Yes.
I will say, though, to be that drastic on the side to the point where you personally don't like it, makes the end a little bit much more powerful when he does accept him, or he does start to accept him. Like, that could be why they amped it at. I think a little bit, because when Danny said, I'm jumping ahead here, but when he says at the very end, because it's not about whatever, it's about me being good enough for you. Isn't that right, Doctor? So like they come to an understanding, like they understand that they're on the same page in that moment.
Yeah, but the Doctor is still, and you are so not good enough for her.
I get a feeling because of what went down in that scene, he's starting to doubt his doubt.
He says it's a start.
It's a start. Does he say that?
Yeah.
Saving the world?
It's a start, yeah.
The problem I have with that is that means he knew who Danny was the whole time. Why is he saying, no, this is your boyfriend, Clara?
Yeah, that's weird.
I think that, I don't know. I think that this Doctor is so distractible. I think he's more volatile emotionally, and emotions are going to cloud your not only your judgment, but your focus.
Maybe it's too human for us, like the human foible of like self-deception.
Mm-hmm.
And we just don't want to see that in the Doctor, because we want the Doctor to be better. Like we want him to be intentionally deceiving himself.
Right. The unfortunate, gimmick of this show, where we can switch actors and then they, to the point where there are different personalities and stuff, is also a bit of its downfall, because we start to cherish things about the Doctor that the next one just may not have. I really love that celery stalk, and I just can't watch it anymore. I will say watching it in the way that we do for this podcast helps me just be in the moment with whoever's on my screen.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas, because I fell off Capaldi halfway through this season, and then when I came back, the second half of this season, I thought was great. But like now watching it from the beginning, I kept waiting not to like it. And didn't I not like this? But so much time has passed, and we're looking at it from a different point of view now, and I don't need Matt Smith anymore.
Right.
I'm just really enjoying him. I don't really disagree with all your complaints. I do think it's not a solid piece of writing, but it's still, I find it really enjoyable.
Yeah, I will say that going through this episode this week, knowing that this is just going to be fun, not to take it too seriously, when the Doctor does mistake Adrian for Clara's boyfriend, the acting in Capaldi, it really got me, where he's like, oh,
he's and when she's walking away and he's just like, oh, Clara, and he smiles to himself, and
he's like,
walks off.
And he's like, oh, those two kids, go and canoodle.
I agree. His reactions and everything were great.
Yeah.
And that's what really spun me and set me off going, is he acting just for the camera? It's just for the show. It's just for this bit. not for the character. Because if he already knows Danny is, it doesn't come like, oh, I'm trying to distract Clara or go, no, this is what you know you like. It was all ego.
Yeah.
It was, look, yeah, she still likes me. See, look who she's going after.
In the scene outside, I noticed the doctor's shirt has like, is it rhinestones or what is on that?
No, it's holes. That sweater. He wears that quite often in the series.
Yeah, it's like a Starfield.
Oh, okay. Because I didn't notice it in the darker scenes, but outside it's like, what is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
As the school closes, Danny finds one of the time mines, accidentally disabling the trap. He searches for the caretaker to get some answers. The doctor uses his sonic to lure the Blitzer into the trap, but when the machine arrives, the trap doesn't work. The Blitzer prepares to shoot the doctor, but Danny comes in and the machine shoots towards him instead, barely missing him. Danny drops the mine, which activates the trap. The doctor sends the Blitzer into the time vortex, but because the mine was not in the correct location, the Blitzer is only sent ahead 3 days rather than the safety of 1 billion years. It's not very nice to sick this creature on people 1 billion years from now.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's future doctor's problem.
He did have some good banter with Clara and him when he's scanning for the creature, and she's asking questions because I had a teacher like you. It's like her answer back, you still do, pay attention. So it's great between those two. It was great between those two. Oh, I'm just thinking that the invisibility watch is like in the Time Heist, a device that we never see again. Time Heist had that bomb for the floor and then sealed itself back up, never used again, never needed. Same as this watch. It's like, okay, we'll do it for this episode, and then we just get rid of this great piece of technology we could use.
I really liked the scene where the two of them are revealed to Danny, and how Clara's not even aware of Danny, kind of in a way. Like, they are having their thing happen, and Danny is taking this all in and having a near nervous breakdown at first about it. And he's like, "You from space?" And then I didn't quite like how she came up with a ridiculous, silly, 1950s style comedic lie about what was.
It's
happening.
A play.
Yeah. But I think it was quick enough, and they were both looking at her. Both of them were looking at her like she was ridiculous.
Yeah, the reaction shots made it okay for me because they're both whoa.
Yeah. But I think Danny's seriousness about the situation balanced out like the comedy that was going on between her and the doctor. It was just a really, because again, I couldn't quite remember until I watched it yesterday when Danny finds out. So I think it's a really good reveal.
I also kind of justify it, and I don't want to stand up for Clara because we all know how I think of Clara, but it does show that how much she is at her wit's end. She has been trying to balance this for the longest time, and now everything's just completely fallen apart, and she just can't think of a way out of it. And so she just comes up with this ridiculous thing.
And I think I also think that's why I don't like what's going on with the doctor and the companion, because it feels like the doctor's adventures with the companion are an inconvenience to regular life, and I don't like that. I want Rose to go with the Ninth Doctor 100% of the time, and then he takes her back where she left off, even though he gets it wrong. But that's the intent. There's no, can we finish the adventure with the sand piranhas so I can go on a date with Danny? There's none of that in Rose's mind when she's with the Ninth Doctor. She's with the Ninth Doctor for that time, knowing and thinking and trusting that the doctor will get her back right when she just left. So that's my problem. I'm saying that aspect of why we have a time machine, like what's fun about a time machine is that you can do all these adventures and come back like nothing had ever happened for the people that are not on the adventure with you. And to make that an inconvenience for Clara's personal life that she's struggling with in the montage sort of bothers me. That takes the fun out of the show.
I can understand that, but also Rose had no responsibilities. Her job blew up. So, so she didn't have any other responsibilities. But I kind of like this. I mean, it started with Amy, having a life.
It did.
And mixing it.
This is the part-time companion thing.
But it only really worked when Rory became a companion as well.
Yeah, they were both part-time companions so that I just don't like the whole part-time companion idea to begin with. Yeah, I get that the show needs to be tied to Earth to save money, but it's like I didn't like Amy and Rory when they were part-time. Although I think it was handled better than Clara's because Amy and Rory did what Eugene was suggesting, which was go have your adventures and then come back 2 seconds later. But then Amy says, we've aged 10 years and our friends are beginning to notice. So it's like there are consequences to both. Whereas like just have a full-time companion, and Moffat never has a full-time companion in his entire run again.
Yeah, he doesn't. That's what bothers me too.
It's like, okay, I can see exploring it, but it, like Frank says, it takes the fun out of it. I don't want to be worried about.
Oh, I didn't say it takes the fun out. I like some of what they're doing.
I thought somebody did.
I said that.
Eugene.
Oh, I think too. I think what may have happened was you take Matt Smith out of there with her and their chemistry. There's slight, sexual tension or romantic tension. Now that's gone, and somebody at the BBC is like, well, we have to have romance. So give Clara a boyfriend, and then, well, you can't go gallivanting around the universe if you're trying to build a relationship. And they're like, ooh, that might be a good story idea. I'm not saying they should have gone that route, but I think that's probably what happened. Like
oh, sure.
But I think it's relatable to a lot of people who have the two lives, your work life and your home life, or type of thing. And when your boss comes over to your house, it's like, okay, you're coming into the wrong area. And that's what I see this as the episode going, no, you're supposed to be away from this. That's two different things. I go back and forth between the two.
And I like the fact, like when he sees her with the doctor, it's like we've all had a romantic relationship or just a friendship where you see the other person at work and you're like, I've never seen that person. Or someone says it's to you, she's like, I didn't know that you would ever behave that way. Not good or bad or whatever. It's just, so I find that interesting as well.
And now that we're talking about it, I think what I don't like is that the TARDIS sound is now not welcomed, because like in the 50th, the TARDIS sound brings hope to whoever hears it, right, Brian?
Yep.
And then so with Clara's montage, if she hears that TARDIS sound, she's going to be like, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to bring so that I can then come back to my date with Danny or going on my run with Danny? It's that now the TARDIS, because we do not hear the TARDIS wheezing, but I'm projecting onto that every time Clara hears that, she's going to be like, I can do this into the mirror, where it should be, I'm going to run into the door, the open doors of the TARDIS. It makes, I don't know, I don't like that she has to lie and make things up for Danny to have her regular life.
Yeah, and Danny doesn't like it. That gives you, I think, it shows Danny a lot of sympathy, going, I know something's going on. You're constantly lying to me.
Yeah.
How can we continue? It's just trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. And because of his feelings towards her, it's sad.
Maybe
end of it.
Maybe it's the combination of the two things that are going on, where it's like Clara's trying to balance her life and the doctor is such a jerk to Danny. Maybe if it was one or the other, just being played,
could be,
might have been okay. But it is just kind of like, it's, I'm running to the doctor. I totally get that. But the doctor has become such a jackass. And it's like, well, I don't know, maybe if they had just done okay, we're going to try and see if Clara can balance her life, and the doctor isn't a jerk to Danny. He might not like him, but he's just flat out horrible to Danny.
I do understand what you're saying, Eugene, and I definitely get it. And that is an aspect of it, but and I see it differently.
Oh, yeah. And the only thing I can relate it to, or that I can think of now that we're talking about it, is there's no real payoff for her personal life that she's been with the doctor, other than her adventures. Like, superheroes have secret identities, so you can have Superman save the Daily Planet, and then Clark Kent come back and he's like, yeah, I saved the Daily Planet, but then also you get insulted and commended at the same time. You can do that to the same person. So there's nothing like that with Clara that we've seen so far, where she's like watching, maybe they're gathered around the teacher's lounge and they're watching like Big Ben falling, and then suddenly it's saved, and then she's coming back and she's like sweaty and brown or wet from rains because of what they did to save Big Ben. And then she's like, in her mind, she's like, yeah, we did that, but it's worth it that I have to kind of lie to my colleagues. We've never seen that, I don't think.
Right.
So I think that's why it rubs me the wrong way, because there's no payoff for what she's prioritizing.
I think also with like the setup, because in Time Heist, like at the end of it, the doctor, says, beat that for a date, kind of generally to whoever she's going on a date with. And I think in American like comedy, instead of the doctor being really mean to Danny, like we would have found more humor in the doctor being exceptionally like close to Danny, like finding a kindred spirit, and then Clara, like, instead of seeing the two men in her life fighting, they're like now uncomfortably close to each other. And so like I think that might have been an interesting way to explore that, instead of the doctor being a jerk, because that, at least for me, that does turn me off from the doctor a lot, and like for no good reason either.
Yeah. Clara arrives and the doctor berates Danny for deactivating the trap. Danny realizes that Clara has a relationship with the caretaker doctor and wants the truth. The doctor wants to erase Danny's memory, but Clara stops him. During their argument, Clara blurts out that she loves Danny and winds up telling him about the doctor and the TARDIS. The doctor blames them both for ruining his plan and alerting the Blitzer. He only has 3 days to devise a new plan, so he sends them away. Danny calls Clara out on her lies and wonders who she becomes when she's with the doctor. She sneaks Danny into the TARDIS so he can see she's the same person with him as with the doctor. The doctor discovers Danny and the testosterone flies.
That's a dumb idea.
What?
Having Danny be invisible inside the TARDIS, yeah, that's going to go over well.
Well, anyway.
She's desperate.
Going back a little bit to the auditorium confrontation with the Blitzer, and then they show Danny the TARDIS. They reveal it behind the curtains, and there's a piece of music that plays underneath that. We've heard it before.
It sounds like Amy's theme.
Yeah, it's not. It is a Sad Man with a Box, but a piano version of that tune from the 11th Doctor. It's really good. I was just like, this is great. It's like that sort of subliminal connective tissue. Like, this is the same show because we're using a piece of music from the old season with the new season.
It just reminds me so much of Amy's theme. It was like, what's Amy got to do with this?
Because there's the 11th Doctor, it took you right back to some scene with that, so I can get that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that, and it took me a while to figure that out.
But did the TARDIS look huge?
The TARDIS looks huge.
Yeah.
This whole episode, it looks bigger. I was going to ask you guys if the TARDIS seemed bigger.
Did they
on the
build
outside?
A new one? Was it just the camera?
I think it's because, I think it's always been that size, but I think we are now putting it into locations where there's a perspective that or not a perspective, but there's a size comparison that we can relate to, like people standing next to it. And we know how big that auditorium should be, the curtains, like that type of thing.
I guess.
Sorry, real quick. I swear that the windows are higher. When people are standing next to it, the windows are higher than their head. And I don't remember it being that tall before, but I could be completely wrong. Sorry, Josh.
We'd have to screen capture it and like look and stuff. Plus, the fact that you guys are now saying it makes me think like I wasn't imagining it.
No, there's something about it that seemed very odd.
Or even with all of the TARDIS changes around the school, location changes, maybe they had it on casters, wheels, and just like rolled it out to the stage and didn't take it off of that. Yeah,
maybe.
So it's up a couple inches. That could be.
Yeah.
I did like the chairs. I'm sorry, this is a small little thing, but the stack of chairs with the hole in it was a great visual.
And they kept those flames going even when they were on stage near the TARDIS. Like you could see them in the background.
Wow. They did well. That was great. And I think the whole episode was about Clara coming to terms that she's got to do something because she does love Danny. She always had the doctor. She always ran to the TARDIS. She would break a date in the middle of it and then come back. She would have 2 lunches. She would run afterwards. It's like, no matter the consequences, she would always go with the doctor. And I think at this point, she gets that, oh my God, I love Danny. This is what's important to me. So it's just sort of like slapped herself going, whoa, this is reality. I'm growing up. This is the adult part that I should pay attention to.
No, that was one of my favorite time travel jokes in the show. Remember the time you had to eat 2 lunches? Something like that.
Yeah. And I think the doctor was like, calories don't count on the TARDIS. She goes, really? No.
And Capaldi's reaction in the line of Clara, when the doctor said, "Oh, Adrian, the other guy's your boyfriend," she goes, "No, he's not my type." And his reaction to it, what? I mean, his reactions were great.
I do like the fact that when she's showing him the interior of the TARDIS, the doctor is helping her. He is opening up the door. He is, you can look in. He's explaining things. I mean,
he gets the situation. He's the real, I don't want to say it this way, but the real grown up there was just like, I'm not going to be a child and argue about this. This is the only way this is going to work is for me to concede, but still stand firm.
Right.
And Danny doesn't walk all the way in. He just looks and he looks and he goes back out. I like that. And
the doctor's reaction to him saying, "We got to call the army," I think was valid. I think that was good. That made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. That's the first thing you do. You want to shoot everything. You want to call the army.
It's weird. I'm fine with that one. That one's good.
Yeah.
But the other stuff. Yeah. The other stuff is not good. This one is fine.
The whole scene with Danny, the doctor, and Clara, where it's revealed, is really well blocked. Like, Clara is with Danny's side for a little bit, and then she switches to the doctor's side for a little bit. So I thought that was really good visually. Like, that whole scene in the auditorium works really well, from the VFX of the chairs and the blocking and the dialogue. Like, I love Danny's realization that something's up, first assuming that Clara's from space, and then that the doctor is her space dad. Like, that's good.
Well, even talking further about the blocking, you have the exit to the auditorium on the Danny side, and then you have the entrance to the TARDIS on the doctor side. So Clara is caught in between two worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The photography and directing, I thought the directing and photography were good throughout this whole episode.
So, Albert, I'm glad you brought up the space dad, because that whole conversation, I think, would have helped me if that was done earlier in the season, so we know the dynamic that the doctor is like a space dad. And then, so that's clear. We don't have any confusion with the end of Time Heist, what that means with Top Dad as a first date. So, like, that's why I wanted to wait till we got here. So then that would have made, if that scene had come earlier in the season, I would not have a problem with that Time Heist comment. Yeah.
But I did like where Danny has had enough and stands up to the doctor, in that whole...
That's my favorite.
He knows I'm here. The whole invisibility watch didn't...
Yeah, I really like that moment as well.
Oh, Time Lord.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
And then when he brings up the office...
Just to, like, this is what you've been doing to me the whole time. Let me dig into your craw.
It's like I've heard people like you before. You're the
strange sentence.
And I like what he said to her, and it wasn't just from the point of view of a soldier and this guy who's your father or whatever like that. When Danny says to Clara, I can't remember the exact words. It was, I've served under people like him. I can't remember the exact words, but like, he's dangerous because he gets you to push yourself too far in some regard.
And then he says, in that situation, you had no fear when you should have.
Right. And that's what Danny's problem is with it, whereas Danny just wants to protect her.
And see, that's why I like this stuff that's going on, and I want it earlier in the season, because Jackie has that sort of conversation with the doctor about Rose. Yes, she's going to go on dangerous things, she's going to go on adventures, but is she safe? Like, that's what Danny is getting at, and I wish this had been done earlier.
Yeah.
I also like Danny at the end, riling up the doctor so much. He gives him the order to get out. It's like, see, this is who he is.
Right.
This is the guy that you're with.
Mm-hmm.
I liked how Danny was able to do that. I got respect for Danny on that one.
I thought that went very well, didn't you? The Blitzer returns sooner than expected. The doctor sends Clara out as a decoy and prepares his trap. She leads the Blitzer to the doctor, who attempts to override the machine's programming, but instead instigates its self-destruct countdown. Putting himself in danger, Danny tries to distract the Blitzer long enough for the doctor to complete the override, which shuts down the machine. Clara hugs Danny, saying he was amazing. The doctor doesn't say anything. But Danny doesn't care if the doctor likes him or not. He knows that the doctor is angry because he's worried Danny isn't good enough for her. He also realizes that Clara wasn't scared during the fighting when she should have been. He's worried that the doctor will push Clara too far and she won't know it until it's too late. Oh, and Courtney Woods is an annoying student who finds the TARDIS, but the Doctor's shoes are away. And a policeman killed by the Blitzer arrives in the Promised Land with a strange woman.
Oh yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
Oh, that little thing.
That scamp.
So, just to jump on that real quick, I remember we talked about this before. They never explain what's going on with Missy and that, do they?
Not yet.
They do?
They do.
Well, then
They do, but
I
not
don't
yet.
recall. I don't recall.
And then you'll wish they had.
Right.
Yeah.
That's probably why I didn't retain it.
So that parent-teacher conference happened here, where it's learned that is it Courtney has been
Courtney Woods.
Yeah, Courtney Woods has been a really disruptive influence as opposed to a disruptive influence over the course of a year. So she's improved.
Right.
That's where this takes place. And then I thought it was just hilarious how the Doctor comes in with his ghostbustery, like Doc Brown pulled together backpack in the thing. He's like, let's go. And then Danny does that like cough.
There is like a few minutes of a Clara and Danny team up with the Doctor moment, and I really dug that. Like Danny's on, like when they see him through the door window, they see the Doctor and the two of them look at each other and they're like, oh no, we got to do this, and then they start making excuses and leaving together. It was a little madcap, and I liked it.
See, again, like that's fun, but cobbled together with all the other things that we're complaining about. Sometimes you overlook those things.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I was able to be in the proper mindset to enjoy this stuff this week.
And another comedic part at the beginning of the parent meeting was Clara and Adrian going together. So it's her and the old Doctor, and Danny comes right in the middle, and like separates them. It's just visually, I thought that was very funny storytelling of that. Danny's closer and pushing the other Doctor out, and there was just the three of them. The other teachers were off on the sides.
Yeah. And it was also funny how I guess it's the headmaster or the principal, Mr. Armitage, is like, there they are. I'm gonna let them loose.
Right. It's a day after Thanksgiving sale kind of thing.
Yeah.
Here we come. I'm just when Clara and Danny are on the couch, the way that Kelsey said earlier, showing that they've been together for a long time. This is, not having to go out. You can enjoy each other together, watching TV on the couch. And what he said reminded me, I'm having my Buffy tie-in, was a season when Buffy never kill a boy on the first date, where she's going out and they run into vampire and have to do all this stuff when she's on a date with a guy. And at the end, she's like, she has to break up with him. And she tells Giles, because Willow and Xander know the dangers. No matter what else, they know what's going on, and they have that fear. They understand what's happening. And this guy just felt adrenalized by all the excitement and running in madly and is going to get himself killed. And that's what Danny was saying. It's like, you're not paying attention to the real danger of it. You're not taking the precautions you need to. And that's what scares him, like you were saying earlier. And I like that a lot. It's like, Danny's a good character, a good guy. And it's like, Clara's good in this also. And it's just, rather than disliking Clara, it's like the Doctor's not being who I thought he should be. That's, it's like, now that I'm watching it this way, it's like, no, the Doctor's causing a lot of these problems. He didn't have to lure the machine to the school. He infiltrated Clara's life for this. It just seemed,
I know.
What is he doing? The stalker or something? It's just like, you're doing it a different reason.
I like that the Doctor's solution is becoming a general, like becoming the thing that Danny accused him of, like being the officer that sends people out to die. Like the way that the Doctor solves this is to pretend to be the general and giving orders to a soldier to stop. So I thought that was good. But I wish that the Doctor had been more self-aware in the moment and analyzing that about himself.
Yeah, that would have been great to have a realization moment.
I didn't even pick up on that as a result, because they didn't.
Yeah.
I think any primary companion would have said, okay, the Doctor is really intense right now, so I just have to do what he says. I've known what to do. I get it. Be a decoy. Lead the monster to the trap. So I don't fault Clara in that position, but I could see Danny's point going, you just went. You didn't think of anything else. It's just, you just went. And it seemed like she was holding down the Sonic in almost every shot. It's like, that's longer than 3 seconds, lady. Pay attention.
And speaking of that chase scene, with it going through the hallways and all that. They're playing over that "a good man?" the 12th Doctor's theme, and I thought it was very effectively used.
Yeah,
because it's at that crescendo sort of part.
It did add a lot of good suspense. I agree. Now talking about Courtney Woods. She's been in previous episodes. The next episode, she's main in it.
Yeah.
Spoiler, but I didn't like the character, but I liked her relationship with the Doctor.
Yeah.
Her and Peter acted well together and played off each other well together and kind of had an understanding that even though she's a disruptive influence, it's different. There's a reason why she's doing it, and she needs more stimulation.
She's like the Doctor.
The Doctor's a
so
disruptive
she needs more
influence.
of that rather than
it totally is.
Yeah.
Like that scene where he's explaining like all caretakers have a police box. Like I love both of them together in that scene where she needs paper towels for spillage. It's like that stuff is good. So I remember first watching this, I'm like, is she going to become a third companion to this new team?
Yeah.
Technically, though, work with the other characters to me. She's just such an annoyance. It's like, why do they write somebody as being so annoying? They did that with the characters, with the kids that Clara was watching over when they had to go to the space amusement park.
Yeah.
They were just annoying. It's like, no, you don't have to write them annoyingly.
I'm sorry. I was going to say that I thought they were laying groundwork for the future, where it would be like the Doctor would find her when she was an adult and then, continue that way. But that was probably too close to Amy.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
It's again like those things, like I said last time, Moffat likes to plant seeds, but he doesn't water them.
He's very J.J. Abrams. He'll start something and not explain it.
I was also wondering, is something wrong with Courtney in that she threw up twice in this episode? Possibly. It was the first time why she had to go get the papers to clean it all up, the paper towels, was because it was her. It was like, well, is that going to be going through as a storyline type of thing? Or was it, I guess it was just or if she's sick, and so she's going with the Doctor, and that being on the TARDIS is going to either heal her or cancer or something. It's like, what is it? I wasn't even thinking it that much until just now. I just thought, why are they bringing it up? Is it just a juvenile joke of throwing up? That happens a lot in schools. I don't remember it happening a lot when I was in high school.
Relatively often.
More often than the workplace, I think.
Yeah, more often. Yeah. Well, it's because adults know, I think I'm going to be sick, I'm going to go to the bathroom, whereas kids are just like, I don't feel well, but I'll just sit here until something comes out of my mouth.
Well, I will tell you from firsthand experience what Josh said that happened to me. I was like, I'm going to be fine. And then I threw up in class.
Yeah. Technically, if we're going to nerd out about it, is Courtney considered a companion because she rode in the TARDIS?
Technically, yes.
Yeah, technically, yes.
Was there going to be a spinoff, or was there a spinoff out of school? Was that a different?
Yes.
Totally different. It was a whole different school.
Oh, okay.
It was the same name. It was supposed to be the same thing, but the layout and the whole place they shot was different.
But it was a Coal Hill.
Coal Hill.
Okay.
Because Mr. Armitage is the principal of that, or he shows up on that show as well, class.
Mm-hmm. The Blitzer was there for Artron energy because of the continued use of the area by the Doctor and others.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, he did say that.
Well, speaking of that, remember when we did Remembrance of the Daleks, the 7th Doctor with Ace?
Yeah.
He mentioned that he had previously applied for the position of the Coal Hill School caretaker. And so now that Doctor finally gets to become that position.
I have a question for you, Eugene. When the Doctor is looking at, tracking down the Blitzer, the same area that the police opened up the gate to find the kids playing, is that just supposed to be remnant of the alley that's near Cold School, of where the TARDIS used to be, because it's all kind of a junk area?
That's what I was thinking because of the way he says a junkyard.
Yeah, he said something. I couldn't remember exactly what that was. It brought back that idea to me. This is where the TARDIS first landed.
Yeah, that's how I took it, yeah.
Which I kind of liked.
I will say that I enjoyed all of Claire's different outfits.
Oh,
it was nice to see. It was nice that this was over a span of several days in Claire's hometown where she can change outfits, but it was refreshing to see her in different outfits, tops.
It was. Did you notice the last outfit she was in for Parents' Night? She had a kind of necklace brooch thing, which looked like they were moons.
Oh,
we're looking at it, like,
two circles that are like, but
we're looking at it, and it either looked like the Earth or the Moon, depending on how faded you wanted it to be. But I thought it was the moon, maybe leading towards like a hint for the next episode.
Going through the cast real quick, we've seen a bunch of these people before. Ellis George plays Courtney Woods. Nigel Betts plays Mr. Armitage. He is in the spin-off Class, like I mentioned. He's in 4 episodes of The Catherine Tate Show, was the neighbor in the episode Sex, Death, and Nudity of Coupling, Season 1, Episode 3, where Jane's aunt dies and everyone goes to the funeral and they have the giggle loop.
The giggle loop.
So that's his sort of tie-in with Moffat.
But when you look at him, isn't he just the perfect Nigel?
Yeah.
Edward Harrison plays Adrian. Andy Gillies plays CSO Matthew. He's the police officer. Nanya Campbell plays Noah. It's the only thing he's done. Joshua Warner Campbell, I'm assuming they're brothers, plays Yeshi. He's the other delinquent before the officer goes into the derelict building. Olivier Barry Brooke plays Kelvin. Ramon Morgan plays Tobias. He is the one that comes up to Clara as she's distracted that the doctor is talking to Danny and talks about he wants to play in a football game or something. He was John in Thor: The Dark World. Winston Ellis plays Mr. Woods, Courtney's dad. He was in the costume of Palifico on The Flying Dutchman in Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest and At World's End. He was Gamble's bodyguard in The Dark Knight. And most recently, he was a Spectre agent in No Time to Die. Gracie Goldman plays Mrs. Woods, Courtney's mom, and this is the only time we see her on screen. She was most recently in Wednesday as Gabrielle. That's Wednesday, the Netflix show. Diana Kattis plays Mrs. Christofoulou. Matthew Cox voices the Skovox Blitzer. He's done sound and audio work for a lot of Doctor Who related shows. Wizards vs. Aliens that Russell T. Davis headed up. Class, The Sarah Jane Adventures, Being Human, Torchwood. And with Doctor Who, he started in season 4 with The Poison Sky, all the way up to The Power of the Doctor, which is when Jodie regenerates. And then Jimmy V plays the Skovox Blitzer. I don't know if you guys remember that name, but we've seen him previously as the Mox of Balhoun in End of the World, the Pig Alien in Aliens of London, Bana Kafalata in Voyage of the Damned, the Grask in the Sarah Jane Adventures and the Doctor Who game Attack of the Grask, the Grosk in Sarah Jane Adventures Death of the Doctor, which we covered, and he was recently R2-D2 in Star Wars The Last Jedi.
So for the monster, was that the actor's face with like a mask or makeup? It looked very much like a robot. Like I thought the whole thing was like maybe
the bottom part with the insect crab like legs, it ran on wheels with the appendages just mimicking the thing, and then they remove the wheels digitally, and then on top of that Jimmy V, who's a small person, sat on top of that, and he had the prosthetics and things put on top of him, and he had like the gun hands were his hands inside. And then Chris Addison plays Seb, the guy at the very end in The Promised Land that is registering the police officer.
I recognized him.
You want to say, Brian?
Well, I knew him from The Thick of It with Peter Capaldi.
Yep.
So he's one of the up and coming politician aides, and Peter Capaldi's character Malcolm just rips him to shreds every time they're in the same room. Oh God, it's so funny.
He also was associated with Veep. Do you know what he played in that?
So other than acting, he has directed a lot of TV shows, like 13 episodes of Veep, one episode of The Thick of It, and then he was Oliver Reader in The Thick of It, and Toby Wright in The Loop. And
in The Loop.
Yes,
In the Loop.
In The Loop.
With Capaldi.
Yes, In the Loop is the name of the movie.
Yeah.
And then he was David Blood in Skins, as an actor, not a director.
No, well, there are two things we didn't even mention really. Was the whole Missy thing. I think that's where I gave up going, I don't want to know what the secret is. You've been playing it so long and not giving us anything.
It's not it's so disconnected and not even alluding to any train of thought. It's like it's a blip.
Yeah.
And it doesn't grab you.
You don't think it's interesting that characters that we see die in the episode show up at the end and they're like seemingly not dead, but in this like
right. Well, let me put it this way. I don't even recall that happened before. I remember this thing. I don't remember that she, like, the person who died in the episode shows up. But I didn't watch those episodes all that long ago, and it didn't really stick in my brain what the through line was.
For me, it was the same telling you that over and over and over again. It didn't add, expand,
Right.
give you any other information. It's like, you already told us this. You already told us this.
And they don't do it in every. They also don't do it in every episode. So I flat out forgot. Like I didn't even realize it was the Missy thing until she showed up. I was like, oh, whatever.
Exactly.
It's also sort of inconsistent because with this police officer or police constable dying, you see him like his charred hand when the Skovox Blitzer shoots him. And so he is in the promised land and he is how he looked when he was alive. So that's a 1-for-1. But then when we go all the way back to Deep Breath, the half-faced man has parts from different human beings. So when he's transported to the promised land,
he looks the same.
He looks the same, where he should be
the way he,
or it should be several different people show up.
That's true.
But remember, he was a clockman. He was one of the clockmen who were replacing with human parts. So
yeah, that's what I mean. Like when he shows up,
but he is a robot.
Yes.
So he sees himself that way. You're thinking he should have gone straight back to being a clock?
No,
person?
No, human. There should
but he
be
didn't
like
start out that way.
Yeah, so that's one way of thinking of. The other way of thinking of it is that these are, or how I originally thought of it with Deep Breath, is that these are non-biological things. Like it's an android that gets transported to the
right.
promised land. So is this a heaven for AI? That's what I thought originally.
Right.
And then so now we're showing that anybody gets there. So what is this place?
The other thing we didn't talk about was the gymnastics in this episode. I mean, to distract.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just jump over them. It looked cool. Okay, it looked cool.
It looked cool, but see, that would have paid off if the doctor was like, I knew you were a PE teacher.
Yeah. It looked cool, but it also looked implausible.
Yeah. Like if something is threatening and shooting at you or people that I care about, I'm not going to do a flip over it.
Right.
It's just like, do something else.
Like parkour. I could have bought parkour or something, but that was like Avengers Captain America leaping.
Also on my TV, it didn't look like he was out flipping the gun rays.
I thought the same thing. I was like, well, he's just going to shoot him up there.
But the thing is, I mean, that's why they used the watch. He just materialized. So the Blitzer didn't register him until it was too late and that he's too close.
Okay.
So that was why they used the watch.
So I've seen a lot of sci-fi. If you have something that makes you invisible, you observe and see, like, is there an off switch to this robot? Yeah. Like, that would have been my thing. Like, do something that you can prohibit the robot from doing the harm. And then, I don't know. Something. It's just not, like,
I get why they did it.
A flip just doesn't come to my mind.
That went with the story of the comedy of it. That was part of the comedy and that stuff. So that storyline there. So I said, okay, we're having fun with it, like you did in some of the beginning of it. And then you got really serious in this later part. But then this, okay, we'll go back to the silly.
So you'd say they flipped to the silly?
Okay, I walked right into that one.
So the Caretaker, who is this episode good for? Or more specifically, this episode is good for who? A new viewer, a casual viewer, a fan of the show, or a diehard?
The characterization of the Doctor is so terrible, but the acting and the whole show is so good. I'll be kind and make it a fan. And the plot's not bad. It's just the characterization of the Doctor.
I'm going to say casual. My reasoning being that the second time I watched it, I was like, I don't know if I like this episode as much as I thought I did. So that's why I think this is good for a casual viewer who's like knows a little bit about Doctor Who, but isn't really watching through the whole season, and they happen to stumble upon this episode. I think they're gonna think that it's fun. So I think this episode is really fun, and that's why I recommend it for a casual viewer.
I don't like the characterization that they went with the doctor, but a lot of people do like this episode. And so I'm trying to figure out where I would put this. And I think Kelsey has good points about being casual, but I'm also wondering if you already have seen casual, you may have seen the other doctors and how they do things. So I think that's possible, but now I'm thinking it's like, should it be new? Because then you have no history of it, really. And so you just come into it. And like she said at the beginning, you just find that the banter and all that stuff, and he's just snarky rather than really mean. I'll go for new. I think it's probably better for somebody who doesn't have a lot of history with the doctor. I could be wrong.
There's no right or wrong answer, Frank. This isn't maths.
I say casual, because I feel like a fan will enjoy this. I mean, I'm a fan and I enjoy it, but there's too many noticeable things as a fan that you realize are wrong. So if who this episode is good for, it's good for a casual viewer who knows enough that they're not totally confused by all the stuff that's happened off screen, and they're not annoyed by the things that aren't quite right. And I think, like we said, it's a good episode of television. The only problems we have with it are connected to the show as a whole. So casual.
Yeah, I think because the first time that I watched through it, like with Brian, I really disliked the doctor and felt it was disconnected from the rest of the doctor's story. But I don't know if I'm quite willing to go with Frank. Like, it would be good for a new viewer. So I think I'm going to say fan. I'm going to skip over casual, go right to fan. Because I did enjoy it more now as a fan, but still, like, I can still see a lot of the things that I still have problems with it. So yeah, I'm going to stick with fan.
I definitely can see it almost fitting in every category. Like Frank, when you put it in new, I was like, I could do that. It's just because if you're new and you don't know anything, you'll find it funny and you'll find it entertaining because you're not bringing the baggage that a diehard would. But
not baggage, information, knowledge.
Stuff. You won't bring any stuff to it. But as a fan, you're going to pick it apart. Like, we're fans on this podcast. I'm picking it apart. And, this...
But isn't that the fun of being a fan? Is like that you also kind of dislike it, but you're
fandom has such a wide spectrum. It's like you have people that hate things with a passion but are still a fan. So if you know nothing about Doctor Who, the humor and the dialogue are enjoyable. But me being a fan watching it this week, I was able to turn off my brain as a fan and just like enjoy the inconsistencies that bothered me, or just the way the Doctor is aloof in this episode. So it's, oh man, I'm just gonna have to pick one. I'll go in between and just go with casual.
I did think that it was interesting during while we were talking that soldiers are such a motif in this episode, and the bad guy robot was called a Blitzer.
Yeah.
I thought that was probably on purpose.
Yeah, I think so too. All right.
Oh, I see what you're saying, Auburn, about the Doctor's strategy of like becoming a commander to shut the Blitzer down. Like he did that with Clara, giving her directions, but that's how he shut down the Blitzer, was saying, "I am your commanding officer."
He's pretending to be a general, like it sees him as the general. Yeah.
So that wraps up the Caretaker. Thanks for listening, stay safe, and we'll see you next time when the future becomes the present.
You just listened to an episode of Who Knew?
Our wonderful theme music is by Michael Grady.
Find him on Facebook at The Universe Explodes.
Additional music is by Damiel Paggio.
All our episodes are engineered by Auburn, and you can find him at auburnbinkley.com.
You can also find this show in several places.
Follow us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcast.
Subscribe, review, and listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher.
Or on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Who Knew Podcast.
All our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com.
Visit our Facebook page.
Please leave comments, reviews, and click like to support Who Knew Podcast.
To listen to our show on your Amazon Echo device, subscribe to us on Amazon Music,
and then ask your Amazon device to play your podcast subscriptions.
This podcast is inspired by Doctor Who,
the longest-running sci-fi show in history,
and especially the revival spearheaded by Russell T. Davies.
Thanks to Russell, Sydney Newman,
Verity Lambert, Ron Grainer,
and all those involved in the adventures of our favorite Time Lord.
Your work continues to inspire and entertain.
Why are you reading it like that?
Because it's a short paragraph. You want me to read that again?
I like the way you read it. It sounded ominous, as a stalker should.
Should we? I'll keep that in. Should we wait for Josh or?
He left? Oh my God, didn't even know.
Yeah.
That's right. You're not looking. You have a whole different thing that you're trying to do, Brian.